So getting into volume 15 of Jobless Reincarnation, this is an absolute phenomenal volume. I mean, I feel like I say this with almost every volume that comes out. It's just so good to see a series or a light novel series that continues to keep that sort of momentum going and that feel of excitement. And especially once I had finished reading volume 14, I had to get into volume 15 because I was just so excited and interested to see how the story would play out. What was the next major thing that Rudy was going to do? And as much as I definitely think some of his decisions could have maybe been planned out a little bit more differently, it all ended up turning out well for him in the long term. But it is just so amazing. And I really do, again, I emphasize on this so much, that feeling of realism when it comes to decision making. Like, you can sit there and think to yourself, oh, well, Rudy should have done this, Rudy should have done that. But with us, the consumer, the reader, knowing everything and seeing everything calmly and collectively and having more information than Rudy, he feels so human in his decisions. And you've got to commend the writer for that. And I really do love the way Orsted has a lot of respect for Rudy for making the decision that he made, even though technically Rudy did fight Orsted and definitely, gave Orsted a little bit of a run for his money. I think Orsted probably would have won in the end, but I feel like Orsted would have came out of that very much worn down, and that's because of the fact that his mana regenerates much slower, and that's something that he noted on. And I think that's why he was a little bit shaken up in it, because Rudy was about to lose, and then Eris rocks up and protects him, and then the fight continues. But I feel like with Rudy finally getting back up, and if they all work together, I think they could have all probably overpowered Orsted. But I think if it was just Rudy versus Orsted, yeah, it was a done match. But Orsted did burn for a lot of mana. Eris is definitely a helpful component of it. The thing is that Rudy was backed into a corner, and it did make me wonder as a discussion point that should Rudy have spoken up and actually told the other two girls, Roxy and Sylphia, the truth about who he really is. I mean, Eris now knows. At the end of the volume, pretty much Eris finds out that he's in a reincarnation. And that's because Eris was there when he was talking to Orsted. Orsted's, him and Orsted are now having this discussion, and Rudy puts that out there. So, to kind of go over the events for those that haven't read the volume, or go over the basics. So basically, the man god has blackmailed Rudy and said, after his plans backfired in the previous volume of trying to kill everyone close to Rudy, he's basically saying, hey, your descendants are going to kill me because they're going to end up teaming up with Orsted, so you need to go kill Orsted, otherwise I'm going to keep coming for your family. But here's the issue. We're not really from this point onwards, you're not really sure if the man god is going to stick to his word. I mean, it's difficult to say. I mean, he could kill Orsted and then he goes, you know what, still going to go for him. So you can never trust the man god. He's full of trickery, lies, deceit. I wouldn't say necessarily lies. He feeds you information in such a way that it makes your perception change based on what he tries to feed you, and leaves out subtle details. And he's very good at manipulation. So you can never know if he was really going to truly stick to his word. So Rudy does all this preparation, and he gets a little bit of help from the man god. He does all this stuff prepping to fight Orsted. He explains some of what's going on to the two girls, and then explains it to the full family that he needs to go fight someone. But he's not all forthcoming, which I'm not sure if that was the right decision or not. But that being said, I feel like he survived on dumb luck. Like, I mean, that's life in general. A lot of the things that go right and wrong in our life is just purely just luck. But I do feel like his decision led to just him being lucky at the end that he survived. And maybe that was the push that it needed to be, to go in that certain direction that his future self said, to get him to have that role of a chance of surviving. And Orsted offering him an olive branch and saying, you know what? Turn on the man god. Join me instead, and we'll work together to defeat the man god. And it was the best decision. But I do wonder if Rudy could have maybe approached Orsted and maybe had that discussion, and maybe they didn't have to do the fighting. That's a possibility. But at the same time, Rudy is desperate. He's scared. He's petrified. He doesn't know what he can and cannot do, because the man god seems to have some powers. He seems to have influence, knowledge. He's able to do something. But what's his full scope of power? you can't know in this volume. I mean, maybe in the future volumes we'll find out, and I don't want spoilers on that, but from the perspective of volume 15, you don't know what his full power and abilities are for the man god. I assume he could probably influence a lot of people around Rudy to maybe steer things in a certain direction, but you can never be too sure, and that's the problem. Rudy is scared. He doesn't know what to do, so he feels backed into a corner of being like, okay, fine, I'll do what you say. Well, we don't need to be enemies. Come up with a quest, and then boom, he's like, kill Orsted. That's the only alternative. Otherwise, I'll come for your family. And it's like, okay, fine, I'll go do that. That's what Rudy's mindset is. Because he doesn't know what else he can do. He doesn't know what other options there are, even though other people are like, maybe you could talk to Orsted. But the problem is if Rudy, and because I was thinking to myself, like, if I was Rudy and I did do that, would I then just go, all right, well, fine, I'll try and approach Orsted, but then the man god would find out. So then the man god might quickly try and do something in that period to try and get Rudy before he sees Orsted, and try and steer things in a quick direction to distract him. That's the problem. And that's why I do believe what Rudy did does make sense. Because at the end of the day, you can sit there and say, oh, well, he should have approached Orsted. But again, the man god seems to see everything and know things. Like, the man god knew straight away his future self came to warn Rudy. So he clearly can see what Rudy sees and knows what Rudy knows, and he can pry into his mind. So there needs to be some way of counteracting that, and that's the problem. If Rudy sat there and went, all right, I'm going to approach Orsted, instantly the man god's going to go after him. So it's that pure fear of he doesn't know what he can do, because in his mind there are no other options. Because if he does try to approach Orsted in a civil manner, he's provoking another problem. So his only solution is to just go with the man god's demand, which does make sense. I hope I word that correctly, but it is such a muddled, confusing thing, because that's just Rudy's mindset. It is a very confusing thing that he has to deal with, and it's emotionally destroying him. And that's what I love about this volume. It's so addictive to read because it's so grounded in reality. But I feel like a broken record because I'm explaining the same things I've been saying for all the other volumes. It's grounded in reality. The humans are realistic, or the people, the characters, they're all realistic in their decisions and how they think and feel and the world around them. It's just, I love it. And that's what makes this series so good. So I'm really excited to get into volume 16 to now see where things go with him and Orsted, and this clearly is going to be a war with the man god, and you learn more about the world and some of the principles and magic and some of the limits, and Rudy being able to use time magic, and there's a lot of other stuff that was going on. So Rudy clearly now has a bit of a head start as well. So that's another thing as well, is that because of his future self helping him, he now has all the knowledge from his other version that was trying to find a way to go after the man god. So now he has a lot of missing pieces of the puzzle given to him much more early on, so he can play ahead of what he already is. And now he has more allies as well, because he's no longer enemies with Orsted, so he can go to Orsted for information and work together, so strength in numbers. And also because of the fact that he doesn't have to worry about despair as much because of his family, he can work as a team, strength in numbers. So really, really awesome on that component. The other thing though too, and I mentioned in the previous volume, and it applies to this volume too, is the whole relationship, the harem aspect, because I was always interested to see how Sylvie and Roxy would get along, because harems are kind of awkward when it comes to mangas and light novels and animes. Like, there's the issue of the cheerleader squad. I've mentioned in previous videos, check out my other videos if you want to see me talk about it in more detail, but I was very curious to see, okay, now we've got Roxy and Sylvia. I see how that relationship dynamic works. What happens when you add a third woman to the sort of the mix? How's Eris? Because they're all different. Like, that's the thing. Every single one of these girls is unique and different. It's not like they're all the same copy-paste waifu simulator. Like, oh, these girls all like Rudy for the same reasons and have the same backstory or slight deviation. They just feel very carbon copy with a slight tint change in their aesthetics, like, oh, just different color, different looks, oh, generally the same. But no, each of them is very unique and different. They have different dreams, different aspirations, different reasons why they love Rudy, very different experiences with Rudy, which leads to different reasons why Rudy loves the individuals and those journeys that they've gone through. And the chemistry between them is also very different as well. But I also love the way it was Eris's turn to have fun that night, and Rudy thinks it's that she's angry. It's like, no, she's hungry. She's devoured him, like almost like a headbutt. So with everything that happened, Rudy prepares to fight Orsted. Him and Orsted get into a massive fight. Rudy is about to die because the fight has just gotten brutal. It's not going in Rudy's favor. And then Eris rocks up with the other girls and they heal Rudy. Eris gets into a fight with Orsted. She does cut his arm, but he puts it back on. It does seem to be that Orsted's possibly going to win. You can never know fully, but it did seem like Orsted was a little bit worn down, but he was showing a really strong sort of poker face. And so then that's when, of course, Eris really did help in that pinch. But Orsted says, hey, join me. Turn on the man god. Because I think that's when he realizes, when he sees all the other girls there, he has a family. He's scared. He's trying to protect them because he knows the man god is going to hurt them. So that's when Orsted offers an olive branch. I can help you. I can protect them. I can protect you. I can help you. And so Rudy gets up after being healed and gets on his knees and looks up to him and agrees to work with him. And then also gives his arm back. So after he loses his arm, he gets his arm back. He technically lost his arm, gained it back, but it was a prosthetic magic thing. But now he's got it fully back. So Orsted, what a Chad. He sticks to his promises. He helps a lot. They kind of have that discussion. A couple of days later, after he gets his mana back, Eris follows along. That's when she finds out that Rudy is a reincarnation. The other two don't know yet. He did say he's going to tell them, but he hasn't told them yet. But I always wondered, would Rudy ever tell the girls if he was a reincarnation? Because a lot of those kind of stories where it's like reincarnated in an alternative world kind of thing, the main protagonist generally keeps it a secret for the most part. And I kind of thought Rudy would do that. And I was kind of sad because I kind of wanted to see the response from the others and how they would react knowing that Rudy wasn't a reincarnation. And I do wonder how many he's going to tell. I think at the end of the day, he'll tell his wives, and that may be about it. He might tell Cliff and the Blessed Child. I forgot his name, but yeah, you know who I mean. My big boy himself. He was also a Chad, helping out in the previous volume and everything. This is the thing. I don't just love like the three girls themselves, because honestly it's really hard to pick who my favorite is. Like there are moments where I'm just like, oh my god, Roxy's adorable, Sylphia is just perfect, but Eris is just scrumptious. I love Rudy's fetish for her muscles. It's kind of fun because Rudy kind of really does like those cute girl, like the cute look, but Eris doesn't have a cute look. She's just scrumptious, if you know what I mean. There's certain words that I can't use in these videos for obvious reasons, but you get what I mean. Like the muscles, the cleavage, like, ooh, she's packing it. And he kind of has that thing for like the perfect balance between fat and muscle. And I was like, you know what? I can respect it, man. I can dig it. I wouldn't mind having Eris as a waifu as well, or as a wife. I mean, she is brimming with energy. She's determined, even though she is a bit of a klutz. And there's that bonus, the bonus chapter as well, which I really enjoyed, where it goes over her sort of trying to adapt to the family, trying to feel like she can fit in, doing different jobs and stuff. And I feel like at the end of the day, she would make a better bodyguard for the family as a whole, and that's her contribution, because at the end of the day, let's be honest here, and Rudy should know this already and should explain this to Eris, the man god is probably going to come for them again. The fact that, yes, he can't completely see and influence around them, but he's going to come for them at some point. And Eris is one of the best equipped to help them. I mean, Sylphia and Roxy have their own things they've got to do. They've got to provide for the family, bring in an income. Rudy's got to kind of multitask between all that. Someone needs to be there to protect the family. Eris is the best positioned for that. She is the best. She is a gladiator when it comes to the sword. She is she is the perfect one for that job. She's like Xena, kind of, if you know, a reference to the old TV shows. But yeah, she's perfect. And she can also teach his sister sword as well. So it's a kind of a combination. I just feel like Eris feels like she feels inadequate, but I think she's not looking at herself and thinking what she already can contribute, because she's trying to compare herself to everyone else rather than looking at what her strengths are and what she can contribute, rather than trying to contribute something that she's not good at. But that's one of the issues with being human. You sometimes try to compare yourself to other people. Again, it falls back to the original point. They're human. They act human. They're grounded in reality. I'm waving my hands in my video right now, doing the whole duh. And that's, I feel like a broken record. I really do. I know some people will win, you're just repeating yourself. But the emphasis on it is important, because it's so refreshing to see that in a light novel series. And that's why I've been gushing over this series. The more I get deeper into it, the more I'm falling in love with it. And the more excited I am to read more of it. So now I'm probably going to read volume 16 tonight after recording this. So absolutely loving it. And I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What are your thoughts on volume 15? I will continue to make content, not just going over the volumes themselves, but also breaking down specific key points of the story, explaining some things, doing a combination between analysis and explains and reviews. So if you want more Jobless Reincarnation content, this is the channel for it, because I'm absolutely loving the light novel series. So again, if you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe for more anime content, and I'll see you beautiful nerds in the next video.